Welcome to the Mycitizenagency channel. If you are a citizen of the European Union and want to open a bank account, whether for personal use, relocation, work, business, or to maintain financial stability, this video is for you. At first glance, it may seem that it is very easy for an EU citizen to open an account at a European bank. And indeed, in most cases, you have more options than non-EU foreigners. But in practice, even EU citizens often face questions, rejections, lengthy reviews, and requests for additional documents. In this video, we'll break down in detail who exactly can open an account, which banks typically consider applications from EU citizens, what documents are most frequently requested, the difference between personal and corporate accounts, and how to increase your chances of successfully opening an account. Let's start with an important point. Having citizenship of an EU country does not mean you can automatically open an account at any bank in any European country. In practice, a European passport does offer more opportunities, but it does not in itself guarantee a positive decision from the bank. Every financial institution follows its own internal rules and evaluates a client not just based on formal criteria, but in the context of their entire situation. Today, banks take a very careful approach to customer verification. This is due to internal compliance rules, risk management policies, verification of the origin of funds, tax regulations, and mandatory customer identification. In addition, banks are interested in understanding the nature of future account transactions and assessing in advance how well the client's profile aligns with their requirements. Therefore, the bank evaluates not only your passport, but also a whole range of factors: in which country you actually live, whether you have a verified address, what your source of income is, why you need the account, whether you plan to use it for personal expenses, savings, investments, or business, whether you have tax residency in another country, whether you can explain the origin of the funds that will be deposited into the account. In many cases, it is not a single document that matters, but the overall consistency of your profile. It is important for the bank to see that the information provided is consistent, transparent, and does not raise additional questions. This is precisely why, even with EU citizenship, the final decision may depend on details that at first glance seem minor. This is exactly why some applicants open an account in a matter of days, while others are denied even with an EU passport. Typically, EU citizens have several main account options available, depending on their goals, the nature of their transactions, and exactly how they plan to use banking services. The first is a personal bank account. It is needed for daily expenses, receiving a salary, paying rent, utility bills, holding funds, making transfers, and using a bank card. This type of account is most often opened for everyday financial life, when you need a convenient tool for regular payments, purchases, online transactions, and managing personal funds. The second is a savings or deposit account. It's suitable for those who want to keep funds separate from their main checking account. This option is usually considered when it's important not only to save money but also to organize personal finances by separating daily expenses from savings. The third is a business account. It is opened for a company, sole proprietorship, freelance work, or international transactions. The requirements here are generally stricter because the bank evaluates not only you as an individual, but also the business model itself. Additionally, the nature of the business, projected turnover, payment geography, counterparties, and overall business transparency may be assessed. In some cases, you can also open a multi-currency account if you work with multiple currencies and international transfers. This is particularly relevant for those who receive income in one currency, spend in another, or conduct transactions with partners from different countries. One of the most common questions is it mandatory to open an account in the country of your citizenship? No, it is not mandatory. An EU citizen can apply to a bank in another European country. However, in practice, much depends on your connection to the chosen jurisdiction. Formally, this option exists, but the bank's final decision will still depend on how clear and well-founded your application appears from the perspective of the specific country and financial institution. It is easier for the bank to review your application if you have one or more of the following grounds: residence in that country, registered address, employment contract, education, real estate lease, company registration, tax affiliation, business activity. Having such a connection makes your profile more transparent and predictable for the bank. In this case, it is easier for the financial institution to understand exactly why you need an account, what transactions you plan to conduct, and why opening an account in this particular country makes sense. If, however, you wish to open an account in a country with which you have no clear connection, the bank may request additional documents or deny your application without providing a detailed explanation. This happens particularly often when the applicant cannot confirm their address, employment, business interest, or any other practical reason for opening an account specifically in the chosen jurisdiction. This is precisely why it is crucial not just to choose a well-known bank, but to identify the country and institution where your application will appear logical and well-founded. In many cases, the right choice of jurisdiction influences the outcome just as much as the document package itself. Now let's move on to the documents. The exact list depends on the bank and the country, but most often an EU citizen needs to prepare the following: a valid passport or EU citizen ID card, proof of residence, for example, a utility bill, bank statement, lease agreement or registration certificate, proof of employment or source of income, an employment contract, a letter from your employer, tax documents, client contracts or company documents, a tax ID number, in some cases, proof of the origin of funds, the bank's application form describing the purpose of opening the account. In practice, the bank expects not just the presence of documents, but their internal consistency. All information should complement each other and paint a clear picture of your status, place of residence, source of income, and the purpose of opening the account. The more transparent your profile appears to the bank, the smoother and faster the application review process usually goes. If you are opening a business account, the following may also be required: company registration documents, information about the director and beneficial owner, a description of the business activities, the company's website, contracts with partners, invoices, projected account turnover, information about the countries you will be doing business with. In the case of a business account, the bank typically conducts a more thorough review. It is important for the bank to understand exactly what the company does, how its operations are structured, where funds will come from, and to what extent the declared transactions align with the business profile. Banks pay particularly close attention to international operations, new companies without a track record, and projects with complex payment structures. It is very important that all documents are up-to-date, legible, and logically consistent with your situation. Even a minor formal error can delay the process. Sometimes the problem arises not from a missing document, but from discrepancies in addresses, dates, names, or the overall logic of the information provided. Yes, in some cases this is possible. Many banks and fintech platforms offer remote account opening via a mobile app or video verification. This is convenient, fast, and especially relevant for those who are just planning to move or want to set up their financial infrastructure in advance. This format saves time and allows you to start the process without visiting a branch in person, which is a significant advantage for many customers. But there is an important detail here. Basic personal accounts or solutions with limited functionality are more commonly opened remotely. As a rule, such products are suitable for everyday use, standard transfers, paying for services, and holding funds, but they do not always address more complex financial needs. If you need a full-featured banking product, a high level of trust in the bank, large transfers, business services, or mortgage options, sometimes the more reliable option is to visit in person or work with a specialist. In such cases, the bank can devote more attention to verifying the customer, their documents, financial profile, and the overall purpose of opening the account. Furthermore, even if the application is submitted online, the bank still conducts a customer verification, and if the answers in the application are incomplete or contradictory, the remote format won't help. Moreover, when applying online, it is especially important to fill out all fields carefully, since the bank has fewer opportunities to clarify details in person, and any inaccuracy can immediately affect the final decision. Many customers wonder, why does the bank ask about profession, income, place of residence, tax status, and even planned transactions? The answer is simple. The bank is required to understand who it is working with and how the account will be used. This is standard practice in modern banking. For the bank, it's not just about opening an account, but about assessing the customer's profile, the nature of future transactions, and the overall level of financial transparency in advance. If you're prepared to explain in advance why you need the account, what amounts will be deposited, where these funds come from, whether you will receive a salary, transfers from clients, dividends, or use the account for personal expenses, then the process goes much more smoothly. When the bank immediately has a clear understanding of the purpose of opening the account and the expected nature of the transactions, it usually has fewer follow-up questions, and the verification process itself proceeds faster and more confidently. The main rule is to answer accurately, calmly, and consistently. Do not state a formal purpose that does not reflect the actual situation. The bank values transparency. If the information in the application, documents, and your explanations matches and makes sense, this always works in your favor. Now for the most important part, how to prepare to increase the likelihood of a positive decision. In many cases, the outcome depends not on a single document or a single answer on the application, but on how coherent and convincing your situation appears to the bank. The better you prepare in advance, the less likely you are to face unnecessary questions, delays, or rejection. First, choose a bank in advance that works with your type of client profile. Not every bank is equally comfortable opening accounts for non-residents, entrepreneurs, freelancers, or new companies. Different financial institutions have their own internal criteria, so it's important to focus not only on a well-known name, but also on their actual track record of working with clients like you. Second, prepare a clear set of documents. When the bank has all the necessary information right away, it reviews the application faster and is less likely to come back with follow-up requests. It's important not only to gather the documents, but also to ensure they are up to date, legible, and don't contradict each other. Third, carefully consider your explanation for opening the account. It must be realistic and supported by your documents and life circumstances. The simpler, clearer, and more logical the purpose of opening the account appears, the easier it is for the bank to approve the application without further hesitation. Fourth, verify the consistency of your address, tax status, and source of income. If the application form lists one country of residence but your documents show another, this almost always raises additional questions. Even minor discrepancies in the details can affect how your profile is perceived and lead to further scrutiny. And fifth, avoid rushing. Opening an account isn't just about submitting an application, it's also about establishing the correct legal and financial logic for the bank. It is careful preparation, not the speed of submission, that most often becomes the factor that helps you navigate the process smoothly and with a positive outcome. There are several common mistakes that complicate the process. At first glance, many of them seem insignificant, but it is precisely these details that often lead to additional requests from the bank, a prolonged review, or a rejection. The first is choosing a bank without understanding its policies. A person applies to a bank where the chances of approval are low for their specific profile from the start. This is one of the most common reasons for failure, because even with a strong set of documents, the bank may simply not work with clients in a certain category or treat such applications with excessive caution. The second is an incomplete set of documents. The absence of proof of address, income, or a tax ID immediately reduces the likelihood of quick approval. Even if the bank doesn't reject the application outright, it usually comes back with additional requests, which drags out the process and creates a sense of uncertainty. The third is conflicting information in the application. For example, one source of income is listed in the application, while another is listed in the submitted documents. To the bank, such discrepancies appear as a risk factor, even if they arose due to carelessness. That is why it is important to check in advance that all information matches and appears consistent. The fourth is attempting to open a business account without preparation. If the company is new, has no website, No description of its activities, no contracts, and no clear revenue stream. The bank may deem the application too risky. When it comes to businesses, financial institutions almost always look deeper and want to see not only the company's registration but also tangible evidence of ongoing or clearly defined planned operations. And the fifth mistake is expecting that a European passport solves everything automatically. EU citizenship does indeed offer significant advantages, but the bank still evaluates the client comprehensively. In practice, a positive decision is usually granted not to those who simply have the right status, but to those who can document their situation and present the bank with a logical, transparent profile. So, to sum up, it is indeed possible for an EU citizen to open a bank account, but this process is far from always as simple as it may seem at first. European citizenship gives you important advantages, but it does not in itself guarantee automatic approval. In any case, the bank evaluates not only your passport, but also your overall situation, place of residence, source of income, tax status, purpose of opening the account, and the rationale behind future transactions. If you approach this process correctly, opening a personal or business account can be done much faster and with greater peace of mind. The main conclusion is that successfully opening an account depends not on a single factor, but on the overall logic of your application. When the bank sees a clear, well-founded and documented picture, the procedure usually goes much more smoothly and quickly. And if you're just planning to immigrate, submit a request for a free consultation via the link in the description. We'll review your situation, create your personalized immigration plan, and prepare a complete set of documents to successfully obtain citizenship in one of the EU countries. We work on a one-on-one basis, taking into account your goals, your lifestyle, and your specific circumstances. Thank you for watching this video. If you're interested in this topic, subscribe to the channel and feel free to ask questions in the comments. We'll regularly post program reviews, answer frequently asked questions, and share important news about immigration law and life in the EU. Your journey to Europe begins with the first step. Mycitizenagency is here for you every step of the way.